that have done that still doing this.
You are joining in on a conversation that we are having pre-show. This is Tony B, right here on Rainier Avenue. Cut that off. Right here on RainierAvenueRadio.world. And joining us is Mr. Bobby Seale, original founder of the National Black Panther Party. And we are going to be having a conversation this morning with an interview that will take place with Mr. Elmer Dixon, co-founder of the Seattle chapter of the Black Panther Party, the first chapter founded outside of California. Mr. Dixon is on his way here. And if you have not heard of Rainier Avenue Radio or tuned in before, we have multiple shows on the air, one of which is hosted by Mr. Dixon. It's called Keeping It Real. And happy to have you back to here today. And so we're going to do a two segment Keeping It Real today, all right, with Mr. Bobby Seale and Mr. Elmer Dixon. So I'm going to get up and Mr. Dixon will sit down and begin to do his show.
Thank you, Tony B. It's good to be back on the air after a little bit of an absence. You know how schedules go. We've been actually doing a lot of things around the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Seattle chapter of the Black Panther Party. And if, in case you missed it, in April, we had a major event at Langston Hughes, Washington Hall, where we had workshops. The keynote speaker was Danny Glover. He actually launched the event. And then we had one of the first woman to actually lead the Black Panther Party, former chairman Elaine Brown, Erica Huggins, who ran the Oakland Community Learning Center in Oakland, which was the official Black Panther Party school. We had Fred Hampton Jr., who was the son of murdered Fred Hampton in Chicago, who is working with gang youth in Chicago and did a workshop. And we had a number of workshops. In fact, the Seattle chapter members did a workshop. We had Kent Ford, who was the head of the Portland Black Panther Party, do a workshop. So it was really an engaging 3 days. And we ended it with, we had a gala dinner Saturday night, the 28th. And then that was followed up with a fashion show that featured Kimberly's Gems, her models who modeled Black Panther wear and African wear, and featured designs by local Black and African designers. So it was a really big event that celebrated the 50 years of the anniversary of the Black Panther Party here in Seattle. We were the first chapter formed outside of the state of California. And we then began to organize the culminating event of the anniversary, which is the Youth Empowerment Summit. And it's going to be held this Saturday, November 10th at Rainier Beach High School. And it will bring together young people from all across the county. The event, the anniversary theme was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I think I talked about that on one of my previous shows. Yesterday, acknowledging the accomplishments of the Black Panther Party. Today, looking at preserving the legacy of the Black Panther Party and some of the programs that are still running, like the Carolyn Downs Family Medical Center. And tomorrow is the focus on youth and their activism and bringing them together. Well, we've continued that theme with the Youth Empowerment Summit, and there will be concurrent workshops that will run throughout the day on Saturday that will feature, among former members of the Black Panther Party, talking about their role in activism and community organizing and the 10-point program. There'll be a workshop by one of our party members who was in prison, We had a free busing to prisons program, the Clement Blanchie free breakfast busing to prisons program, and he actually was there in Walla Walla serving time, and one of the organizers of the Black Prisoners Caucus. He'll be leading a workshop on prison organizing in the past, among other leaders like Estela Ortega from El Centro de la Raza, talking about how they organized El Centro de la Raza, and other leaders from around the city. And then in the today workshops will be current leaders, young people like Nikita Oliver, who organizes with young people and a prison project and a number of other projects that she works on. Joaquin Garrett, who works with Africa Town, and they have just accomplished building a reduced income housing unit right in the heart of the CD that is severely gentrified, but reclaimed a part of our past and put up a wonderful building there to keep Black residents in the community. And leaders like that are organizing today will be talking to the young people about the things that they've done to keep moving forward. And then the future workshops will focus on getting young people together so that they can begin to craft their ideas and their strategies for addressing the critical issues that are facing them today, the dismantling of many of the freedoms that we have by the demagogue that's in the White House, and how they're going to save the environment in the face of him dismantling the EPA, for one example. But it's their issues, it's their time, and we're going to give them the platform for them to address it. And so it really is apropos and appropriate and proper that that we have the person who's responsible not only for the forming of the Seattle chapter, which, as I said, was the first chapter formed outside of the state of California, but also for organizing chapters all across the country that same year. And that is former chairman of the Black Panther Party, Bobby Seale. Chairman Bobby was the person that Aaron, myself, and several other local activists made a beeline for in 1968 when we were down in San Francisco attending the West Coast Conference of Black Student Unions. And it was following here in Seattle the notorious Franklin sit-in, where we took over the school to help them get a BSU, as we had established the first high school BSU on the West Coast at Garfield. We went out there, myself and Aaron and Larry Gossett and a few other local leaders to secure that for them. We were put in jail a week later, which happened to be the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated. But unbeknownst to us in Oakland, a couple of days later, the first member of the Black Panther Party to join was little Bobby Hutton. And Bobby was murdered in the streets of Oakland. And when we got down to San Francisco State that Friday evening, Chairman Bobby was addressing the crowd there. And I remember Bobby had fire in his eyes that night, and over the murder of little Bobby Hutton. And it was that speech that ignited the second flame. I say the second flame because the first flame was ignited by Stokely Carmichael when he came in the spring of 1967. It ignited a flame in a lot of young black activists here in Seattle. But when we heard Bobby Seale's speech, it ignited the second flame that lit an eternal fire in us to work to build a revolutionary movement in this country. And so we brought Bobby up, and he's going to address the young people tomorrow at the summit. And we will also then have him do a speech at Washington Hall at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, which will be followed by a meet and greet at the Esquire. I'll give you more on that later, but I want to introduce Bobby Seale. Bobby?
Oh, thank you, Elmer. Right on. Give me a handshake, brother. I just, you see, these certain, I just, sometimes I don't see the party members for a long time, and then when I see them. I'm glad I see them because they're my heroes. They are the ones who in chapters and branches all across the United States of America who went out there and put those programs together like I had suggested and begin to organize and understand the politics that I was trying to put together when we created the Black Panther Party. But I have to give some credit to people like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, other brothers, Fannie Lou Hamer and others who were out there in different frameworks in their organizational groups, articulating and evolving, understanding, talking about the racism and how we've been bamboozled, as Malcolm X said one time in one of his main speeches. It was a different kind of time. Protest activity was everywhere. Everywhere it was. And at first, I mean, I'd come out of the United States Air Force after 4 years in there. And I had no politics, you know, I didn't, you know, GP, we're talking about, I come out of the Air Force in what was it? February of 1959. And then made my way to Los Angeles where my other cousins and relatives were and worked and dealt down there for, I don't know, 10, 11 months and shifting from 2 different jobs at one point. And then there was a steel strike. That's what happened, as I remember, across country. And it caused I'm a fabricator. I had become a sheet metal fabricator, aircraft sheet metal fabricator in the United States Air Force. And I'd made it up to the top level of that sort of, that field maintenance category of structural repair for high performance aircraft. And I had no politics of what was going on. I just heard things and they would say stuff about this guy, Martin Luther King, and what have you, and all this kind of stuff, you know. And come out of the Air Force, and me and my brother, sister, and my mother pulled together and bought this house across the street from Merritt College. And as we bought that, I went out and applied for a job at a place called Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics. And when I got there, the guy looked at my outline of my background and everything, and he said, "The job you want is taken." He says, "Do you know anything about non-destruct testing?" I says, "Yeah, xylo processing, non-destruct testing, United States Air Force, yeah." And so he jumped on the phone and he called up the engineer in this place. It was a gigantic joint, you know what I mean? And the engineer come over and he showed him my stuff. He said, "Maybe you could use this guy in your department." It was the engineering department. So he talked to me and rapped to me, and I rapped to him and talked to him. And, you know, and what have you. And he said, "This is called the Magnaflux process." Magnaflux? I says, "What?" He says, "Non-destruct testing." Oh, mm-hmm. So he gave me a book called Magnaflux. He says, "Read this, and I'll come back and talk to you in about an hour or two. Read much as you can." I says, "Oh, okay." So I began to understand this stuff. Anyway, I wound up doing electromagnetic field black light non-destruct testing for all engine frames with the Gemini missile program. This was a NASA project. I didn't even realize it, that this is a NASA project. I says, damn, you know, and then xylo processing too for all 3 stages of exhaust housing. My point is that I guess I had enough skills and stuff, carpentry, building, and all this kind of stuff. I didn't worry about getting a job. I would walk in a place and I get jobs. But more importantly, I went on and enrolled in Merritt College. I got that job in the early summer of 1960. So I went and enrolled. We lived across the street from Merritt College in Oakland. And I went over there and enrolled over there for 6 credit hours as an engineer and design major and working a full-time job at night since I got on the night shift. And boom, well, that was 1960, 61. I had a great gig. Other times I fooled around and had some buddies. I'd go play poker with them and what have you, et cetera. We go to the racetrack and all this kind of crap, go up to Reno and stuff, good pay, top pay, et cetera. But I started getting interested in this black civil rights stuff, I went to hear this. I said, let me go hear this guy, Martin Luther King. He's not preaching hell and damnation like the churches do, because I grew up, I got tired of going to the church with hell and damnation every day, and the way they talk about it, when growing up as a kid with that, it traumatized you. You're going straight to hell and you're going to burn in hell. And my Aunt Zelma, my God, she was something. And my point is, Dr. King wasn't talking about that. Oh, yeah, I praise the Lord, et cetera, and so and so and so and so. But his foundation was right down. And he was at the Oakland Auditorium. I'm just one individual. I have no organization or nothing like that. I have a great job, what have you, et cetera. And I went to hear this guy speak at the Oakland Auditorium. 7,000 people in there, packed, standing room only. Dr. King was talking about how they would not hire people, all various industries, et cetera, and so on. And right there he says, and Martin Luther King says, right here in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, Langendorf Bread Company and Kilpatrick's Bread Company will not hire any people of color. He says, and all across America, Wonder Bread Company will not hire any people of color. I say we're going to have to boycott them, and we want to boycott them so consistently and so profoundly, we want to make Wonder Bread wonder where the money went. Man, that audience hit the floor in a standing applaud, etc. Me too. I mean, I was just totally inspired by this brother saying what we got to do to get us some jobs and stop this discrimination, etc., etc. That was a speech. I just went to hear this. That's the first black leader I went to hear. You know what I mean? I mean, this is before Malcolm X. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that was something to me. So that, in effect, is causing me to look at my black history because I'm hearing some other guys on Merritt College campus, and then I meet Huey Newton on a handshake, but that was in 62. I didn't really know him. I didn't get to know Huey till 1963. And I started reading some history and some Black American history. I got a hold of Black Reconstruction, and I got to read W.B. Dorsey's work. I found out that in the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln called himself Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation, and this forever forth free. And then he says, all able-bodied black men will be taken into the Northern Union Army. That's really inside the Emancipation Proclamation. This is a military tactic from a president trying to deal with getting some more troops. And they're going to be black troops. All able-bodied black men will be taken into the military service. 168,000 black men was enlisted into the Northern Union Army. And in effect, it was those, and 38,000 died. I'm reading this, and I says, damn. Whew, you know what I mean? It blew my mind. Because I didn't know that black folks had done this. I knew more about Native Americans, how they fought, you know what I mean, for their existence. This is the pivot point with me, with my job and all this kind of stuff that I start saying, whoa. And Martin Luther King speaking, and then some months later, he got that civil rights bill. I literally quit my job. I had this great job, but I wanted to work in the grassroots community. I wasn't married, and that's what I did. And I went, I'm reading all my history and all that stuff, reading the documentation of 250 slave revolts by Herbert Abthacker from 1800 to 1857. Understanding that, and then come to find out in that Reconstruction period following the Civil War, Black men was elected to political office. That got off with me. I said, wait a minute. And then I started reading and understanding the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. I was just, So that really, everything kicked me. And then I'm listening to what Malcolm X is saying. He's still in the Nation of Islam, but he talked beyond the Nation of Islam, and so, and all of this. And I just got involved. I had to get involved. And that's what happened, and it just, a lot of things happened. And I'm still working for the city government when we wrote the 10-point platform and program in the War on Poverty office where I worked for the city government of Oakland. That's where we wrote it, I wrote it down at least. Huey didn't write nothing down. I wrote all that stuff down. But my point is, and once I got Huey on the right track, he said, we need to patrol the police. I says, yeah, I think you're right. That if you talk with capturing the imagination of the people, yeah. I says, that's what we need to do. He says, and that way we have a revolution. I says, yeah. And the revolution is going to be, I'm going to organize a political electoral machine. What are you talking about? I said, Huey, they had a riot in Watts. 65 was killed, 250 some odd was wounded, and 5,000 brothers and sisters is arrested and put in jail. How can you organize 5,000 brothers and sisters in the political electoral machine, and if the police come down on us, you armed to defend yourself? I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we got to do. So that this is where the Black Panther Party started, in my head, in my mind, in my attitude of what was going on, And I'm telling you, we fooled around out there. I took all my skills, whether it was architectural or what, my building skill. I was raised a carpenter and a builder and all this kind of stuff. And I organized. I just like I organized and did work in the Air Force, structure repair, high-performance aircraft, getting B-52 bombers off the ground and structure repair. It's about a lot of detail, and I'm a detail kind of person. I love to put it all together.
Let me ask you about that, Bob, because when we met you, Huey had already been, an assassination attempt had been made on his life, and he had been shot in the street, and two police officers were, one was dead and one was wounded, and he was in prison.
Right.
And when we started organizing, I remember the first thing that you said to us when you came up here to Seattle, you gave us the rules and regulations of the Black Panther Party.
Right.
One of which was we had to read 2 hours a day. We had to have political education classes twice a week, and we had to have 2 weapons and 1,000 rounds of ammunition.
Right.
So, I mean, talk about that early organizing of the Seattle Black Panther Party.
Well, I mean, that's what I would tell party members, et cetera. I mean, it was a period. See, Dr. King gets killed. And I have 200-300 people up and down Los Angeles to Oakland, what have you, in the Sacramento chapter and stuff, 200-300 people all put together. And these brothers here came and boom, I think it was after the funeral or whatever, you went and set up the chapter here. Then, of course, a little later on, you guys brought me up here. boom, and that was important as a first chapter, even outside of California, because all I had at that time, a little before, it was Sacramento and little offices in Palo Alto, the headquarters in Berkeley or Oakland, and our San Francisco framework we had, and then Los Angeles with Bunchy Carter and those guys. So before Dr. King was killed, that's all I had, up and down the West Coast, and right at the time he was killed, with Seattle beginning. You see what I mean? The killing of Dr. Martin Luther King caused my organization to spread across the country in a matter of 7 months. From the time Martin Luther King is killed, April 4th, 1968, to the day that Nixon won the election to be president of 1968. That's 7 months.
Yeah.
It rolled from what the few we had up down the West Coast, including Seattle here. I have 5,000 members in 49 chapters, branches, and neighborhoods across the United States of America. And I mean, I was going to all these branches and chapters, you know what I mean? They're teaching these brothers. And I tell them, I said, you want me out there, get the colleges and the universities to get me to come and speak. So you got the anti-war and others and a few Black student organizations, et cetera, on campuses. And that's what happened. I would go speak, and then after I speak, to that community, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. And then the next day or next morning, we'd have a whole session with the new young people who want to start a chapter or branch.
Okay.
And I tell them that they have to put up programs. I want programs up, and we're going to start with breakfast programs and sickle cell anemia testing programs, what have you, et cetera. I remember when Charles Brunson he was in Sacramento. He would call up my office, our little office. Chairman Bobby Seale? I says, yes. Who is this? He says, Charles Brunson, Sacramento chapter of the Black Panther Party. I said, we don't have no chapter of the Black Panther Party in Sacramento. But sir, I says, get down here and show me what you got. You need a PE class, et cetera, boom, 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 boom. I looked up 3 or 4 days later. I'm over. My mother wanted me to barbecue her some meat. So I'm up at the house. They're down at the headquarters down there. And there's a little church called the Black Church across the street we use. Somebody called me up and said, Chim, you better get down here and see what. Said, some guy up here marching all these people up and down the street dressed like us Panthers or something. I says, what? I jumped in my little old station wagon and drove down there. Before I could get to the office, I parked 2 blocks from the office. This man has 48 people or more marching in the streets. It's like 11 o'clock. Ain't a whole lot of traffic or nothing. You know what I mean? Up and down Grove Street. Left flank. Cadence, precise cadence. I've been in the military. I know what precise cadence is. You know what I mean? I did it. You know what I mean? Left flank. And I said, man, what? So I parked the car and I'm walking along the side as he's a drill instructor, walking around. Now, understand something about this group of people. There's only 8 men in this thing. The rest of them are sisters. 40 of them in uniform. With the blue blouse. I'd made the colors of the Black Panther Party black and blue. It's just a metaphorical thing I played with that old song, What Did I Do to Be So Black and Blue? You know what I mean? I'm an old jazz drummer too, But my point is, that was something. And he was marching and I said, that's what I need. God damn it, that's what I need. And I said, discipline, more discipline. And I told him, I hollered at him, I said, go to the left street down there, put him in that short street there next to the Black church. I went down there. My hair's all matted. I had a short trench coat or something. And under my coat, concealed, I had a big 357 Magnum Python. I always had to carry that, because we don't know when the police is coming or the Ku Klux Klan, because we had some Klan Nazis come up to one day, and we walked across the street and took their guns. I snatched that gun out of the guy. I said, "Who this goddamn fool's guns? They ain't even loaded. Gonna march in front of our office, and we loaded. We didn't ever go out there with not unloaded guns. You know what I mean?" Never. So, my point. It was a time that when all of this stuff was happening, all this growth was going on. That was the key. And I'm telling party members, boom, 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 boom. And it's getting to the point that when the elections was coming up, I got Kathleen Cleaver. I'm running for state assembly in San Francisco. I run for state assembly in Oakland. We got Eldridge Cleaver on the ballot. You see, it was the Peace and Freedom Party. They was on the ballot in 28 states across the United States of America.
Yeah, Eldridge was running for president.
And we got him. We went to that convention in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we was right because you came down here. You got a coalition with us. You got all this stuff. And see, me, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted us to get our feet wet in the real politics. Now, this is what. And so next thing we know, we run for political. And I knew we wasn't going to win, but it was the exercise of being involved on this level.
Yeah, you may not remember. We ran people for office that same fall here in Seattle. We had our convention at the Sorrento Hotel.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, now come on, Bobby. See, Bobby don't remember.
See, I forgot, man.
He would call us up.
I've been to so many.
He would call us up, like in the middle of the night, and say, "Get down here to Central Headquarters." And we'd have to get on. We'd get right on the freeway and drive straight down because we took every instruction and learning opportunity to learn how to grow the chapter. And so we ran.
That's right, you did.
We ran candidates for political office that same fall, and we had a convention at this Sorrento Hotel where we were going to put you up.
See that?
Yeah, but see that was rolling out across the country. And I want to ask you about that time, Bobby, because that summer in 1968, as you were building these chapters across the country, J. Edgar Hoover named the Black Panther Party the #1 threat to the internal security of the United States. And you were arrested as a result of the fallout from the Democratic convention in Chicago. And it was later when they kidnapped you, the authorities kidnapped you. And a lot of people don't remember this or know this, but the Chicago 7 was originally the Chicago 8.
Right.
And at trial, when the trial began, you demanded to represent yourself.
Right.
And Judge Julius J. Hoffman refused to allow you to do that, but you continued to demand your constitutional right. Tell us a little bit about you being chained and gagged in an American courtroom.
The first thing is you have to understand is this organization has evolved to a point, and it's in 1968 was the Democratic Convention that I went to speak at. And that was in August of 1968. And what happened there is I only went to speak. In fact, I went there, I took, Eldridge Cleaver was the one who was billed. His name was on the leaflets. But what had happened, Eldridge Cleaver was on parole, living in California. And he called me up and said, "Chairman," I says, "What?" He says, "Parole officer won't let me leave to go speak in Chicago. He said, I need you to take my place." I says, "Right on." Boom, boom, boom. I call somebody up. Boom, boom, boom. Give me 2 or 3 tickets, etc. Boom, boom, boom. And those are the days, we could still carry our guns on the plane. I'm telling you, it was something else. Cause I got on the plane with an entourage of sisters and brothers. We're all armed. I may have 6 people with me. You see what I mean? And I don't mean armed. These are concealed weapons. You know what I mean? We're not flashing weapons in front of people. I didn't do that. That's stupid to go do that stuff, And when we got to Chicago, I've never forgotten that. The other Chicago chapter brothers and sisters was out there as I come off the plane, and when I write my screenplay, I'm gonna show you something. You got 9 or 10 detectives with their little badges hanging out, and the party member says, "Get back, get." But party members telling them over, "Get back, God damn it!" I mean, and I'm sorry, that's what they. I mean, and boom, and I'm just coming out with the entourage. There are cameras, you know, television cameras and stuff, whatever, et cetera, boom, boom, boom. And these, I said, they're telling these goddamn cops to get back, and they're moving back.
That was Fred Hampton and his group.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Chicago. I said, damn. I said, you guys got pretty tough nowadays, huh? Well, tell me, we can't take no crap from them. And, you know, we went on and did that speech. I wound up next year on trial. When I was arrested, I was not arrested for that trial. I was arrested for a trumped up operation going on in Connecticut. The FBI had trumped up and just created something that went on down in Connecticut. So I'm in jail when the trial starts in Chicago. That was what's happening. And Charles Gary had sent a motion in. He'd actually come to jail to me. Charles was always in the jail for me to sign something.
For those of you that don't know Charles Gary, he was
The chief
who we
counsel.
called the White Panther. He was the chief counsel of the Black Panther Party. He was a brilliant
Chief counsel of the
attorney.
Black Panther Party. He's Armenian. What are these people? They're famous on television. The
Kardashians.
The Armenian.
Yeah, he was Armenian.
Armenian people were highly discriminated against in their own rights in their situation in the valleys of California. And Charles Gary is Armenian, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, he looks white, you know what I mean? He's our white lawyer, you know. But when you got a white lawyer, yeah, we got this white lawyer here. We're going to keep him, because when we finally got to know this guy, because me and Eldridge was running around trying to get a lawyer for Huey, and somebody said, you ought to go see Charles Gary. And we went to see this white guy, boom, boom, boom. But then we found out about it, and he was flabbergasted, and he wanted to really take this case. We wanted to take this case, and we finally got him to go see Huey, and Huey liked him too. And boom, that was Charles Gary. But listen to me. In the great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial, I'm in jail every day. The other 7 defendants are not in jail. I'm in jail because they got me charged with conspiracy to commit murder in New Haven, Connecticut, that I yet have not had a trial for, but so they're holding me in jail. That means I'm taken from Cook County Jail every day, handcuffs, you know, leg chain and whatever, to the courthouse with other prisoners. And so the trial, they're trying to get the trial started. And I told one of those lawyers to tell that judge that I need to be able to talk to my lawyer, Charles Gary, in the hospital back over the phone. And they ruled that the warden of the jail had to see to it that Bobby Seale had a privacy situation where he could talk to his lawyer on the phone, and that's what they did. In talking to him, he had another lawyer there in the hospital. They dictated to me, and they says, "Can you get some paper?" So I asked the warden. He was a black guy, you know. This warden actually took me as a badge of honor. Wow, I've had Martin Luther King in my jail. I've had Dick Gregory in my jail. Now I got the Bobby Seale in my jail. But he was an African-American brother. I mean, actually, when you got to know him off the side, he was a pretty cool guy. He did, every once in a while, you got some fools coming there. He'll get in their ass because he's going to run his jail, but he can give you a lot of breaks. You know what I mean? I found that out about. Anyway, that's not the point. So I'm in his office, and I said, I need some legal pads or something and some carbon paper. So he gave me 3 folks of carbon paper, and they dictated over the phone to me, Charles Gary in the hospital, a motion for the right to defend myself, et cetera, and all the other details, and while I need this, et cetera, boom, 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 boom. Well, so next day, come into the courtroom, and they bring me out the lockup. I got my motion in my hand. So I gave it to the clerk. You know, the clerk is sitting there, and the judge is going to be sitting up here. And boom. So we sit down at the table, and finally the judge comes in, all rise, blah, 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 blah. And then the clerk says, motion by Bobby Seale for the right to defend himself, et cetera, boom, 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 boom. Oh, and it says, well, and so get up, Mr. Seale, and you got to walk, stand to the lectern, you know. Yeah. So I read my motion. Boom, boom, boom. Well, Mr. Seale, we're going to deny that. I said, wait a minute. This is the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. I got a right to my legal counsel of choice. Boom, boom. You already have a lawyer. Mr. Kunstler is your lawyer. He signed for you. I says, oh, he just signed to talk to me about Cherry's guy. I said, well, he's not my lawyer. I don't want him. I want to defend myself. No, Mr. Seale. I said, wait a minute, man. You denying the Sixth Amendment. Now, I'm not learned like a lawyer. I'm an argumentative advocate. You know what I mean? I said, I said, you bunch of racist dogs, you're sitting up here. I've never had a Negro defend. I said, don't call me a Negro. I'm African American, Black American, any positive connotation thing you know, but don't you call me no Negro. That was one of my contempt charges. You know, and so I made up my mind. Every time my name is mentioned, I'm going to jump up and say, I object, and that's what I would do. I object, so now I say, I object, and for the court record, I said, for the court record, my lawyer, Charles R. Gary, is in the San Francisco hospital, and he's here, and I asked you to defend myself, and boom, 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 et cetera, boom, boom. But then I says, he's not my lawyer. He's not my lawyer. You know, and boom, put this in the record, because in my head, I'm going to appeal this shit all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. This is my whole attitude in that courtroom. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and let some little old idiot sit up here and talk shit to me. Sit down, and you have this contumacious behavior. And I never heard that word. You know? I said, what the hell is contumacious? It's contemptuous. I said, oh, okay. My point is this and that. And finally, this went on for 7 weeks in court. Wasn't no 3-day court. 7 weeks of court. And sometimes 2 or 3 days, I sit there and didn't say nothing. My name was never mentioned. I sit in my chair and roll around, boom, boom, boom. And then one day they got an FBI guy up there. Well, yeah, I was following Bobby Seale. I said, but he's a witness. Let me let him finish saying what he's saying. And he's going to ask, I knew the judge, his routine. You know, is anybody else want to cross, if any other lawyers want to cross-examine?
Yeah.
And I jumped up out of my chair and walked over and sit down there. I says, now, Falafeli, what the hell was you doing following me in the San Francisco airport in the first goddamn place? Sit down, Mr. C. I says, no, I want you to answer the question. It's so, you know, I'm just, in other words, man decided to have me chained and gagged. Well, the first day, it was just some tape over my mouth and a metal chair, a folding metal chair. They had what you call leg cups, you know, around the ankles, and they put the other part of the cups around the metal structure of the chair. And then the handcuffs, they also had, they put them around that. They would, two big old guards would pick me up in the chair, bring me out of the little lockup next to the courtroom, sit me not at the table, but off from the table. And then, of course, Bill Kunstler was brilliant. Your Honor, this is medieval torture. No. I know what happened. They let the jury come in. That's what happened. They let the jury come in. And then right in the middle of this here, Constable jumped up and started talking about this, et cetera, as medieval torture, et cetera. And I think it was two African-American sisters on that jury. They started crying, and then they took them out, and they argued with the judge. Mr. Seale, the judge says from the top of his bench, you must indicate to the court that you will not disrupt it anymore. Now, shake your head up and down, saying, indicating yes, that you will not disrupt this court anymore. And so the gag is here, right? My arms down here, legs and cuffs, and I'm saying, oh, constitutional rights. And I say, clang, 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 clang. I want my constitutional rights. I want my muffled voice. I want my constitutional rights. I want my constitutional.
That's an American courtroom in 1969.
Now, where I was coming from with that, it dawned on me when they put all these leg cuffs and stuff on my arm and stuff on a metal chair, what have you. I'd read somewhere a person that's pulling at their chains is acting in the manner of a free person. By just pulling and trying to break loose from your chains, your mentality is that you're at, and that's what I was doing. Boom. It was symbolic of that. That was the first day of gagging. Second day of gagging, they had a wooden chair. They put a wooden mahogany armchair in, etc. And then they did some little cheap gag. And it lasted about 20 or 30 minutes there because I sit there for a while. And then whatever. And then I wrote something that some of the gauze and stuff is stopping my blood circulation and all that kind of crap. The next day, I guess, what's your name again? He says, I want Bobby Seale kept quiet. You ever seen the ace bandages that you put around legs and knees? They had a 2-inch wide waist bandage, couple of them. And they wrapped my head up. They put a gauze pad over my mouth, and wrapped it up. They had me all wrapped up. The only thing you could see was my eyes and my nose. My whole head looked like a mummy's head. And they had this stuff strapped all around down by my neck where your arteries run down here. And you see you squeezing them arteries there on the right side. The more I move, the ace bandages get tighter. You see what I mean? And boom, and they brought me in there in that big wooden chair. And this was the third day. The artists, they had artists that would draw. They had 2 rows of artists, about 12 artists. I remember 2 rows of metal chairs against the wall beyond where the defense table was. And these guys, I'm telling you, when they first brought me in there, and I really started losing
Consciousness. Circulation.
Yeah, the circulation. I could feel it, And then so now that's causing the DA and our lawyers, the lawyers on the side, to argue with the judge. And see, the judge let himself get involved in it. Well, they're your damn clients. This is what the judge is telling Consular. He says, but you were the one and you've denied this, and they're arguing, and I'm going through changes. If the defendant needs help, the guards know what to do to take care of that. And the judge is just arguing with them, and they're trying to pick this up. Now I've nicknamed these guys because I'm used to these guys. They moonlighters from Cook County Jail. They're not real marshals, right? And except there's one marshal there. His name is, I nicknamed him Arizona because he's from Arizona. They flew him in. They had very few black United States Marshals, okay? And they flew him in. But he was a neat dressed brother. He's very intelligent. He was not, boom, boom, boom. And he had one of those suits, more conservative looking, but you could tell of the cowboy Western style dress. You know what I mean? And he had some very neat boots on rather than cowboy boots, okay? This said, right, plus these other three. So you had Nummy, I call him, he was a young white boy. He was probably about 23, 24 years old. He's a guard over there. So they brought their little suits on and stuff. And so he had high water pants because he actually had white socks and high water pants. He didn't know no better. And then there's Slim. Now, Slim was about 6'4" or something. He's an ex-basketball player, I found out, you know what I mean? And he was a guard from the Cook County Jail. So naturally, he put on a neat, nice suit. But then you had Goliath. He was from the Cook County Jail. This guy was 6'4", but this guy was like 280, 90 pounds of pure muscle, 6'4". And had a bald head. He looked like an old Russian caricature of a mean white Russian because he was a kind of light complected brother. You know what I mean? Anyway, they had instead of handcuffs, they put hospital straps at each armchair, etc. And I had turned my hand over under the straps and was leaning forward to try to get my fingertips on the gag just under my nose. I was trying to do that. And Goliath came in and turned my hand over and boom, knocked my head back up away from that. And I'm gagged, etc. And then he says, let's pick it up. We got to take it out. And so they picked up the back. Goliath picked up the front. So they're trying to move around and they moving in such a way. So while they're moving, I turned my hand over. When I turned my hand over again and started leaning my head, Goliath let go of one leg of the chair to turn my hand down and then hit me again. Bow! Jerry Rubin is up out of his seat. That goddamn guard hit Bobby Seale for nothing. And then Abby Hoffman, they got up, And then the marshals come over there trying to slam them in the chair. The judges along with the lawyers, half of them talking over each other, etc.
It was a big riot at the court.
And wait a minute, let you see how it goes down, because I got this all written in screenplay. This is all in screenplay. I taught myself exactly how to write good screenplay, not story, screenplay. And as they stumble again, they get the chair again, boom, 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 and I turn my hand over again. Well, they're losing time, and they're falling towards all the artists. This all happened inside of a minute and a half or two, okay? And they lose balance. I turn my hand over again. Goliath hits my hand back down, and then the chair is falling right into all of these artists and those metal folding chairs. They're jumping out of their seats, going left and right, and boom, I'm in the chair on my back, and it falls, blam, knocking the chairs out of the way, and then I'm on the ground, and then Goliath falls down to the ground. He loses balance, and his elbow hits me right in the testicles.
Oh, geez.
Hits me right in the testicles, and boom, and I struggle, and I get my finger up, laying on my back, and I got the gag off my mouth, and I said, "You hit me in my balls, motherfucker!" Right in the courtroom.
Okay. So now, what you have been listening to, and you're going to get a taste of that when Bobby's new movie script actually is put together and comes out. We've got to wrap this up, but that was an example of some of the stories.
That was a profound. That was one of the most profoundly historical political trials in the United States of America.
Yes.
And what's your name is coming back?
Who's that?
Spielberg.
Oh, Spielberg.
10 years ago.
Okay.
Had put that up on the internet that this is the big political trial. Guess who he had chose to play me? Will Smith at the time.
Oh, is that right?
He had actually chose Will Smith at the time. Now, I didn't realize it, but I do remember a writer's strike went down. So he took it down off the internet. And then he got busy with something else.
So maybe that'll come back
But
around.
it's been contacted to me.
Good.
To another producer, people I know. Spielberg's back up with that film. I says, and this was just a few days ago. So I'm headed to go see Spielberg.
All right, so you heard it first here on Keeping It Real. Spielberg is back on the set and will be
a great Chicago 7 conspiracy trial.
Great.
He called it the Chicago 7, but remember, I'm the 8th defendant.
Yes.
My story is called The 8th Defendant.
Yeah, and you were separated from the trial. We've only got a couple of minutes left, Chairman, and I just want to kind of wrap this up. That same year, Fred Hampton was murdered in Chicago.
Yes.
And we lost, in fact, that earlier that year, I was with you in, Seattle Party members were with you in Los Angeles at the funeral of Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. And
I actually saw Fred Hampton in jail while I was there on trial.
Yeah.
I got a court order that he's going to be possibly witness, and they let him in,
Yeah, they murdered him before that could happen.
Yeah.
And so you saw the murder of many of our comrades while you were in prison, and we only got a couple of minutes left. But when you finally got out of prison, and we ran you for mayor of Oakland, and forced a runoff election. We had really come to the head of that, the prefaces of that political power that you had talked about organizing.
That's right.
And enforced. And in fact, as a result of that, that led to the first black mayor being elected in Oakland because you had forced their hand.
Lionel Wilson.
Lionel Wilson. So so the people don't know that history about the Black Panther Party, and the fact that as Huey and Bobby started out to build political power in the Black community, that actually has been realized, and a lot of the things that we set out to do that we've accomplished. We have a wall in Seattle called the People's Wall. I'll be taking Bobby by it a little bit later. That image of you in the chair, chained and gagged, is on that wall. We had that wall painted in 1970. It's about to be made a historical landmark here in the city of Seattle. So that history will live forever. So if you want more of this and you want to hear some of the stories that Chairman Bobby is going to tell, please come out to Washington Hall Saturday night, November 10th. He'll be speaking around 7 p.m. We've got a little bit of a ceremony we're going to do there. We had one of our comrades that recently passed, Melvin Dixon, not related in family, but as a member of our cadre. But we are so proud to have Bobby Seale here to recall some of the memories and the legacy of the Black Panther Party. We went on to form not only chapters and branches across the country, but around the world. We had an organization as far as New Zealand. We had the New Zealand Black Panther Party. So your reach was far and wide, and the Black community will forever be indebted to you. And so we're glad that you're here to celebrate our 50th anniversary.
Well, the Black community can be indebted to all my Black Panther Party brothers and sisters who put out all that dedicated hard work. Many of us died and was killed and murdered, et cetera, and so on. But we fought, we struggled, we defended ourselves, not only legally, physically in many cases. And I'm just saying that this is a piece of profound human involvement history. It's all about basic human liberation. This is what it's about. We as human beings, African American, whoever, et cetera, extending our understanding and our respect for all other ethnic groups of humanity. You know what I mean? This is where we were coming from. When we said all power to all the people, we was talking about evolving power to the people, real community control power, right from the grassroots up. You know, you talking about states' rights in terms of the Constitution. We're gonna have community control rights. This is the kind of thing we were coming from. You know, so we can be in control. We can get those political power seats. We can get equity out of the tax monies, you know what I mean, et cetera, for human survival, for human existence here on the face of the earth. And with climate change and the whole earth involved now, all of humanity's existence is at stake now. And that's where we're coming from. And so all of us, anybody listening, whoever, et cetera, us old Black Panther Party members, this is where we at. This is what we stand for, and we're not backing down. I mean, if they start attacking again, you know, you got the idiot in office up here, and don't tell him what he's gonna do. You know what I mean? So I mean, we just gotta keep doing this stuff.
Yeah, well, people have already struck back. You know, the first two of the first Native American women have been elected to Congress.
Yes,
and a Muslim woman, one or two Muslim women have been elected to Congress.
Yeah, one from Iran.
Yeah, so the people are fighting back. So this has been Keeping It Real on Rainier Avenue Radio. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to you coming out and hearing Chairman Bobby Seale at Washington Hall. Thank you.